Hey there, comic fans. I am back from the comic shop this week, and I got 12 comics. Three of them were bad idea comics that I've worked on, so they're extra expensive, too. So it's, I think, $54 for 12 comics. I was like, whoa. But we've also got the comic shop news. What is that, Fox and Hare? You got me. Who are they? Fox and Hare. Oh, they're from Vault Comics. Yep, this looks like a usual comic shop news where we get info on the stuff that's coming out, which will come into play as I show you my comics. Because there's one I got only because I think I saw it in here. But let's start with some bad idea comics. Checking the varnish. It looks pretty good. Shiny. This is the lot number 3 of 4. Black and white, mostly comic. About a Hollywood studio. Ooh, that's a scary one. A Hollywood studio that's been closed for 50 years because they were making a horror movie in the early 70s and it got a little too real. And some sort of crazy demon gods came out, and as long as they kept that studio closed, everything was cool. Well, they opened it up 50 years later, so everything's not cool anymore. Who's this? Marguerite Bennett and Renato Geddes. Bad idea. They do a little, parody of movie studios. And we get a full color backup. What is the name of this one? I don't remember. The backup is Monsters in My Life by Peter Milligan and Sarah Barini on the art. So there's backup stories with these two. Then the other, let's see, the next second out of 3 is Monster Kill Squad number 1, which is a wraparound cover. Lots of varnish on it. You can see the parts that are shinier than others. That's the varnish. Who's doing this one? Christos Gage, Tomas Giorello, and Diego Rodriguez. Some nice, highly illustrative, digitally painted artwork in this one. And I guess they fight monsters. Though I put this together, I didn't actually read it, so now I'll get a chance to read it. And there's a backup in this one too. Who's doing this one? Is this Juan Jose Rip? Backup, or where are the credits? Yeah, Juan Jose Rip is the art. Matt Kint and Juan Jose Rip doing Deep Fake. So, backup story in that one too. And then the third one is another number 1 from Bad Idea. It's Pirate Queen. So let's check her varnish. Should be varnished just on her and her gun. On the back we got a Bad Idea picture. Is that a Tony? Yeah, Tony Millionaire picture back there. Who does this one? Peter Milligan, Adam Polina, and Tamara Bonvillain. Some nice pirate artwork. Adam Polina was one of these 90s X-Men guys who I think then left after the 90s to move to Japan and did animation and stuff, video games. Now he's back doing some comics. Some very nice looking artwork here. And there's also a backup in this one too. Matt Kint and Travel Foreman doing Mind Games. Mined. Let's see what we got here. There's that backup. Maybe it's a Minecraft thing. I see some blocks there. Well, 3 Bad Idea comics came out this week that I worked on, so there are those. Now, here's the one. The Beauty, which is a special. What's the name of this one? Beauty, All Good Things. And I wouldn't have even known this was coming out if it wasn't for Comic Shop News. The Beauty was a series from a few years ago that I collected. I think I read about 25 issues or so. And they're wrapping it up in a one-shot special. So if you don't know this one-shot special is coming out, you might miss the end of the story. Though I'm not sure what the end of the story is going to be, because the beauty was a lot of sort of little stories. Let's see if I can remember this right. The beauty was an STD that if you caught made you more beautiful. So people were trying to catch it. But then, this story took place 6 years later when people were dying from it. And that was rather unexpected of them. They liked being beautiful. And here's another one. Tarna. I don't know if I knew this one was coming out. You may have just thrown, because I had Tarna on my pull list. It's only $3. The Cosmic Gardener. I think I collected a Tarna miniseries that came out this year, and these are usually the ones that appear in Heavy Metal magazine that are serialized. So I imagine this ran 7 or 8 pages at a time in Heavy Metal magazine, and then they put it together in this $3.99 package. Yeah, but see how they have that red line down the bottom? That's because this is magazine. There's a little extra space because this is formatted for their magazine and not their comic book, which is slightly wider. Boom. But yeah, check that out. I enjoyed the miniseries, which I never got issue 2 of for some reason. So we'll check that out. Now we have the latest issue of Spawn. Oh, this has got a cardstock cover. Yeah, I don't remember Spawn having a cardstock cover. Todd McFarlane and Carla Barberi. It's still only $2.99. That's why I'm buying it. I'm not a huge Spawn fan, but I kind of like the artwork. And it's the last of the $2.99 comics. So Tarna was just $2.99, but very few are. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put Spawn on my pull list just because it's $2.99. So that's what I've been doing, enjoying it. And he's got more Spawn books coming out, which I think are also going to be $2.99. So that's cool. Savage Dragon 260. This is the mad menace called Torment. He wants to destroy Malcolm Dragon's life, and he's going to start by destroying Malcolm Dragon's wife. Has there been an issue of Savage Dragon in a little while? I'm trying to remember. Maybe he skipped a month or something. I can't remember all of a sudden. But 260 issues of it he's got now. One I've been buying for years. I didn't start with issue 1. I started with issue 70, but it's been on my pull list for 190 issues now. So that's about 15 years, over 15 years. So always Eric Larson's Savage Dragon, always a good read, fun superhero story. And then we've got Kaiju Max Season 6, Number 3. Xander Cannons. I've been. Kaiju Max is a prison for giant monsters, and they've got giant robot guards. But in this one, there's aliens attacking Earth, so they're giving the giant monsters a chance to get out of prison and earn some good will by fighting the aliens. But a lot of times they're just cleaning. They're not actually fighting the aliens. They're cleaning up stuff and doing grunt work that needs to be done to keep the human fighters to fight the aliens. But I'm enjoying. I like Kaiju Max. I think it's fun. Then we've got Howard Chaykin, Hey Kids Comics, and I just saw. If you like comics history, Ralph Reese has been writing his own comics history, the comic history of him that he's been involved with, on Facebook. So you can go to his Facebook page and be his friend and read about Ralph Reese's days in continuity in the 70s and all the stuff he's done and all the stuff. It's interesting to read the comics history from the guy writing his own. And Howard Chaykin's one of his friends. I think Howard worked at Continuity Studios too. And someone was complimenting Ralph Reese on writing his history, and Howard was like, I'm writing history too, only the fictional kind in Hey Kids Comics. Something like that, he said, because this is the history of the comics industry, only it's not with the real people. It's sort of versions of the real people, and captures the story of it, but it's not literal. And it's sometimes it's tough to follow if you don't know who all the people are. And he gives you a key, But it's like you have to know the head of Verve, like is Stan Lee. You have to know that YC Yankee Comics is DC, right? And then there's another one that's EC Comics, and he flips from the 40s to the 50s to the 60s. So he's really going to different eras in history here. But I'm enjoying it. It's good stuff. I've been picking up Howard Chaykin's stuff for since he went to Image doing indie stuff like 10 years ago. I've picked up all his stuff. And then we've got Gru Meets Tarzan, which the first issue was okay. Let's see if there's a double-page spread in here. It was the double-page spread in the first issue that really sold it. I'm like, oh, I hope there's a double-page spread in all the issues. Oh, it doesn't look like there is. Oh, well. But we'll see. I thought the rest of the issue was just okay, but the double-page spread itself sold me the comic. I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. So, but it's 4 issues. This is issue 2. So I'll have fun with it. Then we've got Jeff Johns, Gary Frank, and Brad Anderson, and Geiger, issue number 6. This one's been just okay. Another cardstock cover. I like that. Just a post-apocalyptic story. And I think I like Nocterra, which I put in the same category as this because they started this just about the same time. And they're both done by two mainstream creators. Who does Nocterra? Tony Daniels and Scott Snyder. And they're both like mainstream creators, like Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, doing indie books. So it's a little. Hold on a second. Let me hit mute for. Let's see, where was I before the phone interrupted? I was on Geiger, and I think I was saying something about how this and Nocterra I consider in the same category. Mainstream creators doing an indie book. And I think Nocterra is pulling out ahead of Geiger for me. Though I'm still enjoying Geiger and their post-apocalyptic stories. The Gary Frank artwork is nice in it. The story itself is just kind of okay. There isn't a ton of story in it so far, but it's not. I mean, there's nothing terrible about it. I think there's just kind of a lot of world building and stuff, and I don't really know where it's going, kind of thing, or what its point is, besides telling a post-apocalyptic comic book, of course. But I'm sticking with it still. We'll see how this issue is. But like Nocterra's just pulled a little ahead of it in the 2 comic race in my head. And then the last comic of the week is Bloom number 3. Don't think I've seen an issue of this in a little while. This is the story. It takes place in I think the early 70s with this guy who's he's like an auto mechanic by day and a comic book artist by night, and he's trying to work on his comic. And he found this woman who inspired him. She's going to be the villain in his comic, so he took her out to the woods to take some photos of her. And things got a little romantic. Then she got a little crazy and a little mystical. And now he's all a mess. He's also got a fiance too. I think it's a fiance. I don't think they're married yet. I haven't read an issue in a while, but it's definitely his model has kind of corrupted his life. We'll see what happens in issue 3, because that was just only in issue 1 and 2, and that all happened in one day. So we'll see what's going on there. Now let me show you a little bit of my comic work here, my artwork. And this is a battered old comic that my comic shop owner gave me, Justice League 142, because he just happened to get in it. This was like 2 years ago. He gave me a pile of ripped up old comics that he couldn't sell because they were too ripped up and worthless. I said, I'll draw on them. So I started doing some draw. There's little names down there on them. What's that guy's name? Max Version. Okay. Who's this? List Lion. But I use a black Copic marker and white pastel. And then I spray the whole thing with a varnish, a spray varnish. And the varnish keeps because pastel is just a powder, keeps the powder from coming off on your hands or anything else that rubs on it. And I also like the varnish because sometimes it makes the white pastel a little more transparent. So sometimes I like that I can see a bit of the comic through the white pastel. So there's barely white pastel on that part, but that's one of the things I like about it is that as I can see the comic through the white. I find that kind of cool. But this is just I originally did these a few years ago. I started doing them as monsters on comics, and here's a throwback to that. There's a monster. But this time I was just doing face drawings. That's the only 3/4 view face drawing I have. I'm going to have to do a few. Most of them are full face. I'm going to do a few more 3/4 views. You can see the red coming through her nose. All right, there you go. Some comics, a little bit of artwork. You guys have a good week out there.